Shut up and sit down.
The word epic is one of the most misused and overused words in the English language.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It had been a whole year since our box got stolen. I ran that go-kart into a telephone pole. We hated James, but this just made us hate more. Cause for the last year, we've been riding skateboards. Friggin' skateboard, I would rather walk. Do I look like Tony Hawk? No.
You are listening to the Not So Epic Dialed podcast with Matt Legrand, Evan Price, Lance Hepler, and Jake Von Turing. This has always resonated with me, so I'll share. In every journey comes a moment, one like no other. And in that moment, you must decide between who you are and who you want to be.
And Mike, don't forget the spinach. Hey, you stop, breathe. Hands in the air, get down on your knees. Don't make us have to fight back, cause you won't really like that. We just want our backs back.
Today, we're getting down with crisp, lit, and epic.
Down on your knees. Don't make us have to fight back, cause you won't really like that. We just want our backs back. Yeah. You can't always get your backs back, but then you at least gotta try to get them back. Sometimes if you get your bike stolen, it will get sold or something. But you still gotta keep your head up. Peace.
Unfortunately, I'm diagnosing you as not epic.
Hi, and welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I am Jake Von Turing, and today I'm here with Lance Hepler.
Lance Romance in studio.
In studio. It is. So I was not in studio last week, and when Lance is in studio, I want to be here. Like, it's such a rare occurrence.
Yeah.
It is.
You're too funny.
Yeah, good times.
Thanks.
And that voice you just heard, Mr. Matt Legrand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? You guys are looking fantastic.
You're looking pretty good today too, Matt.
You know,
all things considered, looking good.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't heard the last podcast where I briefly hopped on and just went over my crash injuries and things of that sort, I'm doing better every day. So
Yeah, good. That's good. And I'm here, like usual, bringing all this fun stuff together and
Bringing the
making
party.
it all, kind of happen, sort of. Wouldn't happen without you guys. But let's get into our Backpedal.
We're
And-
missing somebody.
we are missing someone.
Yeah.
And it's a sad, when we look to that empty seat,
There's
it's
an
a
empty
sad,
seat.
It's a sad moment.
It's a very sad moment. I was bummed to not have him here because it's always nice having the gang.
He's
all
he's
back in
doing
town.
altitude training. He's at over 1,000 feet.
So acclimated.
He's
So acclimated.
He's in Central Oregon. Evan Price is in Central Oregon, having a little mini training camp.
Okay. So should we just pay homage to him?
I
real
wonder
quick?
if he's just putting
Yeah,
in
we should.
Yeah.
I mean, his
What-
non-training camps, he's putting in like more mileage than all three of us put together. So what does a training camp look like? Does he just not sleep and train?
I think so. But Evan, this one's for you, buddy.
I wear Speedos. When I'm at the store, you know I'm wearing my Speedos. When I'm doing cardio, I'm wearing Speedos.
Evan, are you wearing your Speedos right now, buddy?
I bet
Sure
you.
he is.
I bet you he is. I bet you he's, just on a mountaintop somewhere, just looking like off into the sunset, heroically, Speedo only.
Speedo only.
Some sort of tight Speedo.
I thought of him this weekend. It was classic funny. I was standing at the Hag Lake Triathlon, watching my wife do a triathlon. I'll get more into that a little bit later on. And it was actually there with Jesse Tonkinson, who was in studio with us last week.
Yes.
And he and I both at the same time just started busting up because we both at the same time saw this young kid. He probably had to be right around 20 years old, getting out of the water in like this, like almost like a micro Speedo for a dude. And I'm like, holy cow. And then he got on the bike in his little Speedo. And that was it. A Speedo and shoes. And then he rocked it on the run and just killed it. I mean, he had a good time too, a good finish. And I'm like,
Did he win?
No, he didn't win, but he was
but he was up
probably top 5, maybe.
Yeah.
Kid was flying. And I'm like, that's Evan's people right there. So Evan would have been proud.
Hilarious.
I wonder, he probably didn't wear a wetsuit. It was pretty warm.
The water was warm, super choppy, but warm. So
okay.
Anyway, it was pretty funny. I
Why
cracked up.
don't you do your back pedal and go ahead and dive into it a little bit?
Okay, we can start with me. That's fine.
We never start with you. You always get bumped till the last.
Let's start with
the
Jake.
last spot. We never let him.
I'll fly through this. Raced on Monday, and we went out and did the little short track, and got third place. And the man sitting to my right beat me.
Yeah.
Did you really?
First time ever in any race ever that I beat Jake.
Did you
at a race?
Did some of the tools that we talked about, letting that tire out of air out of his tire,
Air out of his
that.
Actually, I think he was still a little sick.
A little bit. Put a little bit of lead in his water bottle.
He was a little sick. I got a good start. He got a bad start. That was enough.
So two things happened. Lance beat me, and I threw up a little bit in my mouth. That's something I've never done before. A little bit of that regurgitation, little micro puke in the mouth.
Lance can teach you how to puke on the bike.
Yeah, there's an art to it.
There was, and what was funny is I laughed like Lance. You know why? I had a little bit of that Rocket Red before the race because that stuff is awesome, and it was a little bit of red spit up puke stuff that came out of it. I didn't paint myself like Lance, but it still came up, and I'm like, this is so fitting.
Wait, did you when you puked, Lance? Was it red?
Yes.
Oh, gross.
It was red because I drank Rocket Red before the race.
Yeah. That stuff stains your entire intestinal system.
Yeah. Well, it's beet powder.
It's beet powder.
Just like that stuff is
Yeah, that's super. That's a wonderful color to see everywhere because you don't know if it's blood or not.
No.
So team on a whole out there did really well. We picked up some more points, and I think we have 2 weeks left, and I think we have about a 700-ish point lead in the team competition out there to win back-to-back years. So I'm kind of hopeful that that's going to happen. We're going to go out there and race again tonight, and then we've got the team relay next week, which is going to be a blast.
Yep.
So
what's your buffer on the points? What's the?
We're about 700 points up, if I'm not mistaken.
Is it pretty safe?
It's not totally safe.
No, anything could happen,
but it's pretty safe.
Yeah. Okay, we'll have a good turnout for the last week. Tonight, it's anybody's game. In terms of whatever. If we can just maintain tonight, that'd be great.
2 weeks left.
Yeah, two races left, correct?
Okay.
So Tuesday I took off because I was feeling Monday, and then Wednesday kind of got back into a training routine. And started feeling a little bit better finally, and actually rode with Lance Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
We rode 4 days
in
together.
a row. Yeah, I don't think that's ever happened before. So a lot of things that never happened for me and Lance this week. So we had some great training rides, and then did a little family ride this past weekend. But the highlight of my weekend was going out to Hag Lake and watching a bunch of people from the Dial Triathlon and just other friends and some of our juniors, and watching my wife do her first triathlon. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm proud of her.
Yeah.
It's super cool. I didn't actually see results. I just know that she finished. I don't think she's super concerned about her time or anything.
She was not.
Which is awesome. She finished her first triathlon, and she was pretty nervous. What's interesting is she trained hard this season for a triathlon.
Yep.
So I think it was just train hard, finish this race, and she did it.
So the open water swim is obviously her biggest fear. I'm not going to call it a fear, but it's pretty darn close because it could be, it can go sideways pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she got to the first buoy, and there's a grown man in his 30s or 40s going, "Oh, help, help, help," or something like that. Wow. So he was kind of concerned about his own personal safety. The water was super choppy. There was a lot of wakes, and there was kind of wind blowing. And basically, for her to have that as her first experience to come out of it on the other side being fine was great, because everything's going to feel like piece cake from here on out. Even though she's out in the ocean, if she's going to go out in the ocean, never do a triathlon, that's probably the only thing that I think could get worse. So,
it can get worse.
So and then she did it with one of her really good friends, and they kind of vowed to stay together, and they helped each other through the whole process, and it was just a really good outcome for them. And her goal was not to come in last, and that happened. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Good for you, Rebecca.
Did you do a Friday night ride?
We did the fog out ride. We probably had 15 or 20 people out there, and just had a nice casual 20-mile ride. It was fun.
Nice.
Yeah. Those rides are so relaxing. I mean, it's perfect too. You go out there, you spin your legs, just getting ready for the weekend and kind of recovering from the weeks past, and you just get to socialize and talk with people about everything under the sun. It's a really good time, and we'll probably have 5 more of those. And I've got a couple things up my sleeve. We're gonna do a couple I don't know if it's going to be cheesy or not, but it should be fun either way. Some themed rides for it. So
that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that'll be popular.
Yeah.
People love goofy stuff like that. I don't know. Lance doesn't. He's too serious.
I'm very serious.
But everyone else will absolutely eat it up.
Yeah. I've got 2 set up for the remaining rides. So we'll have one probably coming up maybe this week or the next week, and then one for the final ride, I think. So stay tuned.
Is one of them a naked ride? Because I'm all over that.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, we're going to send that memo out, and Vance is going to be the only one who's going to get it, and he'll show up and be all naked and stuff.
Okay, maybe not.
Yeah, the speedo ride.
Bring a camera. Come show up for the beginning and end of those. I mean, Lance naked, when does that happen? Just on days that end in Y.
That's right.
So to culminate a great week, great training, good racing, did a little family ride yesterday. It took me about an hour to go 10 miles with the family. We did a little family ride, so that was kind of nice.
Awesome.
So,
nice.
Yep, that was my week. Lance, Backpedal.
Jake already mentioned the first day of this week, racing out at Short Track, the mountain bike race, and going in with all that fatigue from that Boise fondo the day before and major cramps, I had no expectations, which was kind of odd. But man, I got a good start, and then it just kind of went better from there. I kind of stuck on the leader and tried to stay with him. There was actually a point in the race where we were halfway through the first lap, and Danny Weichel, the leader, started to go away from us, and I'm right there with two other teammates, and I went, "Hey, you guys, one of us has to go with him.
Yeah,
we have to stay with him." And they didn't, and I did, and I was able to hang with him for like 3 laps, which was
good,
which was great. So
yeah,
weird that
that's exactly what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
Like go hard, go as long as you can,
Yeah.
hang as long as you can, and be pumped about it.
Yeah.
You know, like that's a killer workout.
Yeah, so that was exciting to actually come in second in that race, and it was good. It was good for us, good for the team. I had a good time. I did way better
Nice.
than I thought. The next night,
Your fitness is coming back from that killer
a
vacation.
little bit, yeah, it is.
Which is good.
The next night was our PIR race.
Oh, Tuesday night?
Our
Okay,
Tuesday
PIR.
night PIR race, which is a circuit race. It's like 30 miles. And I raced in the 3-4 category.
Oh, okay. You had some teammates then.
There was like 8 of us actually that showed up to try to help a teammate, Ian Gibson, get on the podium.
Wow.
And man, it was great racing with 8 teammates.
Yeah.
Because Chris Hannell just sat on the front and kept the pace up. And then there were 3 or 4 of us to chase down moves. And
Hannah's amazing because he's such a like when he gets up front and starts going and like working, he kind of like tucks his arm in just a little bit. He's very aero for being on a road bike, and he just looks like a little sewing machine. Like
yes,
it's fun to watch.
It just discouraged attacks.
Yep, absolutely.
from the other teams
because the pace is hot.
Because the pace is hot, and he's on the front, and there's 7 others of us. To chase things down, and Ian just kind of stayed protected, and I was able to lead Ian out on a couple hot laps and at the very end, and he ended up second place for the race, which was great, which is what we were trying to do.
Yeah,
and I ended up top 10, which was also
great,
a bit surprising, with all the racing and tired legs in like 6 days in a row of major effort. So. But that was fun. And then the rest of the week, I rode with Jake every day.
It was awesome. It was really nice.
Did you guys get any cool photos?
Nope. I think I got a couple cool shots
got a
that I
couple
posted
cool
on
shots.
Strava.
Did you get any
GoPro stuff?
KOM types?
We did
segments?
on Saturday, unexpectedly.
Neither one of us, like this road
going for it.
I took Lance on a road that I'd only done once, and it ironically was 3 years prior to the day.
What?
It popped up in my time hop that later on that day. I'm like, holy cow. To the day.
You're like,
yeah.
we're going to give it
And that was the
3
only-
years off.
Yeah, it was the only time I've ever done it. And it's a great road. We should ride it more. But Lance and I kind of dropped the hammer a few times and came back with some hardware.
I was doing some interval sets. That was kind of the
okay.
prescribed workout for the day. And
Prescribed workout. Oh, interesting.
So I was doing like a few interval sets, and Jake just went with me. And there was a section that we took like 4 KOMs on between the 2 of us.
Yeah.
And we weren't
Really trying.
No.
We didn't know that they were there. We didn't know where they started.
Yeah.
We didn't know where they finished. And I sat up on one of them too. That I got I think second place.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, had I known.
So that was nice. The other great thing about this week was I was able to ride with my wife a couple of times.
Yeah.
Cool.
She got out there 3 times this week, and I was able to ride with her a couple of those.
When we went to go ride on Saturday, she was already out riding by herself, going out to Frenchman's Bar. I'm like, that's awesome.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I had broken another derailleur hanger.
Oh shoot.
Yeah. And so
how is that happening? Is it like
it's a lot of use and just needed, like his drivetrain is so solid. Like SRAM makes such a great drivetrain that you don't have to get in there and dink around with it quite as much.
Right.
Well, in that process, I believe his cassette came a little bit loose. It wasn't maybe torqued down enough. And anyway, it ended up causing the hanger to get a little bound up, or the chain get bound up on the hanger, and it just wasn't
it
happening.
popped the threads on the hanger, so I had to It like the screw that holds the hanger in place actually
out.
stripped it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like a broken half. It's just the
Correct.
Right. Yep.
He brought it over and we put it up in the stand and
You're like, yeah, we're gonna replace this part.
yeah, just insert all the NASCAR sounds. We threw the bike together and he was out riding. It was butter smooth.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
So
you had all the parts you needed to replace that?
Yeah, Jake did.
Jeez.
well,
I
when
figured
he's
you
got
had
the
to
same
order
bike
that.
as me, I've always got backup parts. So
You're like, let me take this off
just
of my
used them all.
bike.
yeah.
I won't be riding today, but you'll be out there.
No, he's all set up for. Well, I think how many miles did you have on your chain?
Almost 4,200 miles on that chain.
Yeah. So with Shimano in that same time period, I'm going through at least 3 chains, and your chain was just being at the end of its life. So I don't know.
We replaced the chain, the hanger, the pulleys. Yeah.
Pulley wheels, yeah.
Yeah.
It's some new BB Infinite.
Yeah, we got some
These things are so butter
spinny
smooth.
fast ones.
Supposedly, this is total nerd stuff. Like, you know, I always talk about on my YouTube channel, like the drive chain efficiency and things like that, like of certain lubricants and things like that. Supposedly, the lubricant that they used kind of in bag, basically, like what you get when you first purchase it, is the worst as far as efficiency goes.
Yep.
So a lot of people will, you know, just take their chain right out of the bag, slap it on there, and then go until you need to, you know, reapply lubrication or whatever. Might be something to consider would be like stripping all that stuff off and like applying some sort of, you know, bike lubricant. I'm sure that didn't happen. But
Isopropyl alcohol, cleaned it up nice and
did you?
smooth, and
Oh, you
put
did?
some
Oh,
squirt
okay.
chain lube on there,
Yep.
and
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was flying.
good to go.
It's good
Yeah.
to go.
Yep.
That's a good point. there,
Probably
Matt.
it's probably worth doing. I don't know. I'm the same way though. I'm always like, okay, I pulled this out of the SRAM bag or whatever, and I just roll with it, just because I'm lazy, not because. I mean, if it was like a big race or something, I might go the extra mile. I don't know. Who knows?
It's
I'm
nice
not
once you
biking
get that
anytime
stuff
soon.
off there.
Yes.
You can feel a difference for
So
sure.
great.
Matt, would you like to backpedal on us? Did you have
Yes.
a crazy fun?
I had a
epic
crazy week. It was my. I was about to say that my week was actually epic. Yeah, I'm recovering from a bike crash accident situation, and I watched a lot of Tour. I watched the Tour, and the Tour is
Good week
epic.
to watch.
The Tour has been epic. I definitely have been able to improve every single day. Putting on my shirt, epic, absolutely epic. So yeah, so that's pretty much been it. I mean, it literally has been a blur. Like a couple of days. I mean, I'd say the majority of the time I haven't actually been out of the house. So anytime you go out of the house, epic, absolutely epic.
Have the calories been epic?
I have probably gained at least 5 pounds in a week.
Has the beer consumption been epic?
I haven't been. I would say that like it's just been one like at least like a beer or so a night mixed with mixed with my pain meds.
Wait a minute. Don't stop doing that.
And I'm sleeping great. But yeah, no, I've been drinking, you know, beer and stuff like that and not holding back on calories. But I think it's the fact that you go from like, you know, at least exercising minimum of 1 to 2 hours per day just to 0 is such a drastic amount of, and it's depressing too because you don't have that like outlet.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah.
I know it's been just a little over a week, a week and a couple days. That first week is just like shock. It's just shock.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to describe it.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, at the same time, you're like, oh, it's kind of nice just to be off the gas pedal for a moment. But you're going to start to really miss that
doing something,
that exercise component,
Yeah.
you know, that endorphin release that you get from that. Then you're going to start to hit a phase where you're going to be a little bit depressed. I went through this last year thinking, I'm like, I don't get to touch a bike for months.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, it's not just like riding a bike. It's like, I want to be able to like take the, you know, like there's things like I couldn't take the light off of my bike.
Yeah.
Like I can't do, like there's just little things that I need to do, you know? And it's just like, I can't move my bike very well. Like it's all these things like with one hand, what can you do?
Yeah. Well, it's just even life. I mean, thankfully we're in the nice part of summer where you can just slide on some sandals, but you're not in the dead of winter saying, hey, you know,
I can't get my pants on.
Wife, I need you to come here and button my pants and tie my shoes for me. That's a serious thing, and it sucks.
It does.
So,
yeah.
but
I feel like my injuries are a lot less than what you went through for sure. And
I don't want to downplay them because what you're going through sucks. Your whole life, as you know, it kind of had you press stop, pause. You know, didn't get completely ripped away from you, but
yeah,
it's reality.
And you know, it's good. Like my wife can still go out and do her long run. She's training for a marathon. She did 20 miles on Sunday.
Good for
That's my
her.
that'll be part of my backpedal. My wife ran 20 miles, which is the farthest that she's run in a long time, and she's got a marathon coming up. I want to say it's like late September anyway, so it's coming up pretty soon, and she's doing really well with her training. So
Good for her.
So, you know, at least she doesn't have to like stay home and take care of her broken husband too much. You know, I can still like at least put the kids in front of a video and like manage.
It's
Yeah.
like, sweet, more training time for me.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, good stuff.
And so this coming week, I'll be heading up to Whistler to watch the Ironman triathlon. I will not be competing. I know you guys are surprised. You're expecting me to hobble through it somehow.
Just one wing it.
I know. I mean, I'm actually one of the swimming drills you do is like one arm, and I'm like, I can do okay for not gonna happen. But I'm gonna watch. I have a whole bunch of friends that are doing the race. I'm gonna bring the camera, try and film something probably, and yeah, it'll be I guess it'll be some sort of great family trip of some sort.
Yeah. Well, I bet knowing you'll make the best of it. You'll have a good time.
We will try.
Cool. Leadout news.
Oh yeah.
Where do we go from here?
Let's talk about the tour first.
Has it been epic?
Are you sensing a theme?
I think I'm sensing a theme here.
That's my question to you guys. Has it been epic yet?
I'm going to say yes.
I think it has been
emphatic. Yes, it's been an epic race to watch.
I think it's been epic. I think it's about to become epic.
Epic.
I mean, I think that the things that I'm looking forward to this coming week, we should probably talk about what we've seen so far. But the things I'm looking forward to, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday stages are all like super hilly climbing stages,
right.
And I think they're going to be I think they're going to destroy the field. So should be interesting.
It's as we record this, it's the rest day. We record this on Monday. When it is released on Wednesday, they will be on that difficult mountain stage, one of the difficult mountain stages in the Alps, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be probably, the podcast will probably come out maybe potentially right after the stage on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So all of our commentary is going to sound ridiculous.
It's a couple days old. But yeah, it has been pretty amazing to see Julian Alaphilippe and what that he's been able to hang on to the yellow jersey when he really didn't give him a chance to hang on to the yellow jersey this long.
We all would say it would have written him off.
Correct.
Right? Like can't hang in the mountains.
Right.
Can't hang in the time trial, and he just does pretty well.
He's just hanging, which is pretty amazing.
It's pretty cool.
It's fun watching somebody do something that they're not really supposed to be able to do.
Right.
And you got it. I mean, we're Americans and we don't have too many dogs in the fight, if any at all, at this point in time. But to watch France rally around him, I mean, I heard that someone say he's the sweetheart of France, and I would wholeheartly agree with that right now. They absolutely love him there. Even if he doesn't win, he's still going to be like their man, And
he's fought hard. Okay, so the stage that I'm thinking of is Saturday's stage, where it's a climbing stage, and he got put under a lot of pressure, and he fought to stay.
And he hung.
As long as he could.
He hung on it.
He hung.
Yes.
And you could just tell, you'd have a group breakaway, and he would just give everything to fight and hang with that group. And then, Geraint Thomas came by him towards the end, I think, and he hung, as best as he could. I just thought he tried really hard.
What's amazing is Dusanek Quickstep, Alaphilippe's team. They did not build a team for a GC rider.
Yeah,
they built it
Viviani,
for Viviani for sprint wins and for stage wins. They figured Viviani would win some sprints and
which he has.
Yeah, and Alaphilippe would win some breakaway or roller type finishes.
Yeah,
and they didn't build a team so he doesn't really have help at the end of these big climbs, and
every
he's just
single stage.
He's been hanging, which is pretty amazing.
It's cool. Peter Sagan of the sprint, just surfing wheels,
right.
Just making his own team, his own lead.
All right,
out.
so let's do this because we're talking about Julian Alaphilippe. I would ask you guys, because this podcast comes out on Wednesday, there is quite a hilly stage on Wednesday, mountaintop finish. What do you think? Do you think he'll still be in yellow when this podcast is published?
I say no, and I've said no before 3 stages where he's kept it.
Yep.
I think he's going to be protected tomorrow. He's got a rest day today. I think he's still in yellow on Wednesday, but it's going to be by a very, very narrow margin.
At
I'd
the
say it's
beginning of Wednesday or the end of Wednesday?
End of Wednesday,
End of
sorry.
Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the time that race is over, I think that he's going to just have a very, very narrow lead, and it's going to be the day after that on Thursday that he loses. And I don't know. I think that Geraint Thomas and Ineos has been kind of playing possum a little bit.
Maybe.
I think that either Geraint or Egan are going to have a big couple days when they get to the Alps. I mean, there's 3 days there, and there's 3 more very, very difficult climbs. One of those 2 guys is going to float to the top, and if it's not them, it's going to be Pinot. So
yeah, I think it's interesting because it's 3 days. I wonder if Jake, if you're right, if it's one of those things where it's like people know it's 3 days, it's 3 intense days, and they might set it up to be like, don't kill it the first day, like don't absolutely destroy it.
Yeah,
I don't think Julian Philippe's going to go on the attack. I think he's going to hang as just like that should be his plan, is just hang as best he can through those 3 stages.
Yeah,
and so I could see them saying like, okay, we're going to chill the first day of the 3, and then someone's going to be like, the second day, I got to try and crack. I got to try and crack the GC contenders. That could happen.
Yeah, that could happen.
Or it could just be so high that, and so difficult that there's only a couple people that can actually go. And I will say, no, he will not be in yellow at the end of Wednesday.
Okay.
But just like Lance, like, I don't know. He's been doing great.
Been wrong every time.
What I thought was interesting was he won the time trial. You don't win a time trial
Correct.
if you're not a serious contender. Like, those guys are good. They're able to hurt for an hour. They're also, very much able to hurt for 5 hours, just because their fitness level is at a certain level that you would not win that stage if you weren't really, really good.
He didn't just win that stage either. He crushed that stage. I mean, you don't beat Geraint Thomas by, 20 seconds?
Yeah.
It's
good.
14 seconds.
Was it 14? I thought it was closer to 20. Okay.
But
still, that's a pretty big margin. Usually it's like close, more like 3 or 4 or 5 seconds.
My thought process with that is that potentially, like, there's probably a couple people that maybe could have won, but they were taking a little bit more careful through some of the turns. But I don't know. But like, a win is a win, right? I mean, you can't, and the fitness is there, is my point. So I don't know how that'll translate into some of the really big climbs, but he's going to do okay.
What's crazy is the last couple days, Thibaut Pinot has been the class of the field.
Yep.
He has been the strongest climber,
Yes.
if you don't count Simon Yates, who is an hour and 20 minutes behind. So we're
Right.
kind of not counting him, even though
it's like,
he's...
who cares?
Yeah, he's won 2 mountain stages,
Yeah.
which is phenomenal. But Thibaut Pinot is like just moving up the ranks, and,
Oh, yeah.
and he's in 4th right now as of Monday,
Yep.
which is just crazy. And he is a minute and 50 seconds behind. And on that crosswind day, he lost a minute 40
Yep.
on the crosswind day. A day he
Chipping
shouldn't.
away. Yeah.
Yeah, but a day that he shouldn't have lost any time.
Right.
And he loses a minute 40 because he just missed the move. And boy, if he had been in that front group,
He would have won. I mean, he'd be in the...
he'd be 10 seconds behind, which would have changed the last couple of days.
Yeah.
I think everyone, if they're looking at kind of the stages and if they've been watching closely, he's got to be the pick. He's got to be, he looks like the strongest rider in the tour.
Yep.
Right.
In my opinion. And I think if you really watch it and you look at him, like, he fights really hard on the hills. He's breaking the best riders.
Yes, he
so
is.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. We all have to admit that this has been a fantastic tour for 2 groups. It's Lotto Jumbo. Their name what's the name of their team now? It's different now. It's not Lotto Jumbo, is it? It's Jumbo
Visma. Jumbo Visma.
Jumbo Visma. Anyway,
Jumbo Visma. Yeah.
that team has had a fantastic tour, and it's been a really good tour for the French.
Yes.
Especially
Yep.
if Thibaut Pinot does what I think he'll probably
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
So
Fun. Exciting.
it's been, oh man, it's so good, because here we are, and it's really going to come down to 3/4 days left in the tour, and we won't know who's going to win.
right. It's not foregone.
Yeah.
6 guys within reach of this.
And that's now as of Monday, and
Yeah.
Tuesday's probably going to be kind of a wash.
Probably. It's more of a sprint stage.
And then
so.
you've got the last stage is kind of a wash. So it's 3 days.
Okay, so let's talk about this real quick. Just
Okay.
give me your real quick 2 cents on what you think. Is it going to be Bernal? Is it going to be Thomas? Who do you think is going to finish better, stronger at the end of this week?
Egan Bernal, he's kind of, he looks to me like he's stronger in some ways, but he also seems like he gets kind of cracked at the end of these things. And also, and it's a 3-week piece here that I think could come into play. I think he's tired. I think he's really tired. I have to stick with him because he's my pick from, my original pick. And I'm going to stick with him.
Sure.
Like, I think he's going to win the whole thing. Still going to stick with that. But man, I would not be surprised if he just crumbled this last week. We'll see. I'm hoping for the best. Geraint Thomas has not looked quite as strong on the climbs.
But in Thomas's defense, there's a few times where he looked like he was done, and then all of a sudden he clawed his way back in, and there he is, like holding time and taking time away from Alaphilippe.
Well, and the other piece that he's done is, in kind of that like classic Team Sky way where he doesn't like punch any certain part of the climb, like Thibaut Pinot would, but he'll keep pedaling. Like he doesn't really crack.
Yeah.
And I like this Saturday stage is the one I'm thinking of where he got broken. He got beaten pretty significantly on that stage. Like Egon went up with Pinot and they actually left the group.
They
but
lost
Thomas
20-30 seconds.
Yeah, but he didn't like soft pedal. He didn't say like my tour's over, I'm soft pedaling up.
Right.
Like he like hung in there. And I think it's Wout Poel is his one of his teammate buddies, just hung in there, like stuck with Geraint Thomas, like didn't stick with Egan Bernal, like he stuck with Geraint Thomas. And they just worked together and kept chipping away. And I think it was, he's definitely one. I think he's, if someone picks him as like, hey, he's going to do well this last week of the tour, like that seems pretty wise to me.
Yeah.
So
what do you think, Lance?
I still think that Geraint Thomas will pull it off too.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think he'll. I think that Bernal, unless he has one great day in the mountains and Thomas just implodes, that he will still continue to try to work for them.
I think everybody's making a lot of assumptions about Team Ineos, and I think that they've got a few cards up their sleeves that they're going to play in the next couple of days that nobody's going to expect necessarily, and I think that they're going to surprise us. So I don't know. I just have that. But I don't know which guy. It's a coin toss.
Yeah, it is.
Is it going to be Thomas? Or is it going to be Bernal? I don't know. It's going to be one of those two guys, but one of those two guys is going to prevail, and they're going to do well.
Whoever feels better on that day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's 3 days. That's the thing. It's
like 3 days in a row.
I could see Egan Bernal doing like one really big day.
Yeah.
I don't know about all 3. I don't know. We'll see. But you also have all this altitude to deal with, and I think that's going to affect some people. I guess we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm excited.
It's exciting.
Super exciting to watch this stuff.
And then my last question for you, and then we'll move on from the tour.
Oh no!
Is it going to be?
I have so many more questions.
Is it going to be somebody from Team Ineos, or is it going to be Pinot to win the overall Tour de France?
I think the smart money right now, if you're looking at the results so far, the smart money would be on Thibaut Pinot, but I'm going to pick Team Ineos. Stick with my pick.
I think it's Pinot.
Pinot?
Yeah?
I think the class of the field right now is Pinot, if he keeps climbing the way he does. Yeah.
So if Pinot wins, will you have a glass of Pinot with me?
No.
I will. I will.
Matt will for you.
I tried.
Even if Pinot loses, I'll probably have a glass of Pinot. Either way.
We'll have some Pinot and I'll pour you a glass of grape juice.
Okay, I have some questions.
Go ahead.
Who else has impressed you guys? Like, we haven't talked about Richie Porte at all.
He was my pick, and he just blew to pieces.
He unimpressed me.
Yeah.
What about like we talked about this briefly before we pressed record? Miguel Landa passing Nairo Quintana without even a glimpse or a pat on the ass or anything. Like, come on! Even if you guys don't get along,
okay.
Like,
yes. So Quintana makes it in the break yesterday. Probably the rest of the people in the break were ticked that he was in the break. They're like, they're going to chase you down because you're in here with us. And then Landa ends up pulling back and catches his group on the last climb. And as he passes Quintana, he doesn't even glance at him, look over, not like, okay, here I am, get on my wheel.
Nothing. Or like, hey,
like a smile.
Nairo, you should
nothing.
work for me or something.
There is some dysfunction on that team. Yeah.
Wow. I will say that Miguel Landa was the one that I thought was going to piss off the team, not Nairo Quintana. And so,
aren't they both going to different teams?
Yep, I think so. But man, Movistar worked really hard for Miguel Landa. They were cranking
Yes.
to pull that break back in, which
And
was really cool to watch.
He's pulled himself back.
Yeah, he's in
seventh.
He's 4 minutes and 54 seconds back.
And he's a good climber. Like the next, the stages are not. I mean, he's done well in tours. Like 3-week stages. 3-week tours in the past. I think he'll do well potentially in the next couple days. We'll see. Man, that's a pretty interesting piece there for sure. There's been a whole bunch of other people that have really impressed me. Like Peter Sagan went back and got waters for people.
Right.
I was super proud. Like when I see stuff like that, I'm like, oh, you are cool. Like,
well, how about him doing some wheelies for everybody
totally.
on the
Wheelie on the time trial bike.
Yeah.
I can't even ride a time trial bike, and he did a wheelie on it.
I know.
Such a showman.
But when he does, that, like, that's classic Peter Sagan. But like when he also goes back and grabs water bottles for his teammates, I'm like, dude, especially cool. That team when he came onto that team, it was basically like a team built around him.
Right.
And he's helped. I mean, like, he's a helper. Like that, mad respect.
Matt likes Movistar. He's always talking about Movistar.
No,
so
I don't like.
I'm going to ask you a question though.
Go.
Who's going to finish higher in the overall GC? Is it going to be Landa or is it going to be Valverde? They are currently separated by 6 seconds. Valverde is in 8th place with Landa being in 7th place.
Miguel Landa will definitely be ahead of Valverde.
Okay.
But man, Valverde's tough as nails. That guy.
Yeah.
We've talked about him being a cagey rider. But he's just tough.
Isn't he almost 40?
He's 39, I think, and he. I just,
it's amazing.
I see him on the back of that, pack, and I'm like, he shouldn't be there,
right?
And he does. He hangs.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Lance, do you have any TDF questions for us? Anything you want to discuss?
Really disappointed to see Wout van Aert crash out on the time trial. He had just blossomed and exploded on the scene in this Tour de France, and then he's cutting a corner close on that time trial bike. And
did you watch that?
I did.
Yeah.
He hit the barrier and it peeled his right foot off of his off the pedal, and as he went down, he drug his right leg on the ground, and he was probably going.
Right, 30, 40 miles an hour.
Well, it was
probably.
a tight corner, so it was probably 25, 28 miles an hour. And he ripped his he ripped his leg open somehow. They immediately took him to the hospital.
I mean, it was like a laceration, not like road rash, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Like capsular stitches and so it was deep. Like he's still in the hospital. He had to be there for several days. So it was just really sad.
Is that his main injury? Anything else? Like head is okay?
Oh yeah, he didn't hit his head.
Okay.
No,
cool.
it was his leg. He just sliced his leg open.
He has stellar bike handling skills.
Yeah.
Granted, TT bike's quite different from a cross bike, and who knows how much TTing he's done in his life. Granted, he's still super strong on that thing, and he still knows how to throw a bike around. Would you say that the barriers were too far out?
I think he just cut it too close.
It was on him?
Yeah.
Well, and remember how well he did on the time trial bike with the team time trial. He was a beast.
And he won the individual time trial in the Dauphiné.
So I'm thinking he was going for the win.
He was going for
right?
it.
Yeah.
Although he wasn't quite there on times.
Yeah.
But he was going for it.
He was going for it. Yeah. He pushed it
and it was
too close.
Very close to the finish too, right?
Yes.
So that's got to be insult to injury. Like you're in the pain cave right there, and the next thing, and that could have maybe had something to do with him having a lapse in judgment. But can you imagine going from that heart rate and that effort and being just turning yourself inside out? Next thing you know, you're on the ground, going to the hospital.
Yes. Straight to the hospital.
Demoralizing.
Yeah. So I was sad to see that.
Yeah, that's tough.
He was my dark horse pick, which is
an awesome pick.
Yeah. I just called it dumb. You called it awesome.
I mean,
that's epic.
It's epic. I just think he had probably one of those people that just had breakout tours, even though he finished early,
right,
by slicing his leg open and going to the hospital.
Super young, he'll be back, and I think he'll be somebody fun to watch for years to come.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, is he done with cross racing?
No.
Is he done with mountain bike racing?
Well, he doesn't mountain bike race.
Oh, okay.
That's Matthew Vanderpool. But no, his plan is to go back and race the full UCI series.
Seriously,
in cyclocross. Yeah, that's what
He's
I.
healthy.
Wow. Yeah.
Hopefully,
this road racing season was like a
training camp.
Yeah, it was like let's see how you do. Oh wait, you're actually really good.
I wonder how he'll do in the classics in the future. I mean, he is just. You'd think that he would be.
He's built for the
classics. Yeah, we'll see.
Awesome. Anything else on that?
Nope.
All right. Real quick on the Leadout news, just a quick update on our teammate and friend Jay Hamlin. There has been no new updates. There have been a few sightings of his bike. Actually, people have actually caught video of the attacker, the person who actually attacked, riding the bike. It was like a friend of a friend saw somebody that kind of fit the description, saw a bike that fit the description, got out his phone and videotaped him. And unfortunately, by the time the video made it was Jay's neighbor. Jay's neighbor was out of town with no cell service and got it like a day or two later after this sighting. Sent that over to Jay, but they weren't able to track him down. I'm not quite sure where the police are at with their process, but the fact of the matter is that the person was brave enough to get on the bike and ride it around in the area where this happened and was caught on video.
Amazing.
So you guys not
Brave
very bright.
enough. Brave enough. I like how you describe it that way. That's like
was
Matt's so brave on the bike.
Yeah, stupid, brave, same thing, different letters, I guess, in this situation. But it's just a stupid, tragic thing that had to happen to Jay, and he is in good spirits. The GoFundMe that we started for him is doing really well, and I want to thank each and every person who has contributed to that. I think we've raised, it's like $3,200, which is awesome, and I'm hoping that'll at least cover his medical bills and be a few bucks to put towards a bike if his homeowner's insurance actually does not cover it. That was the last word that we got, that the insurance was not going to cover this bike based on this, that, and the other.
Right.
It's dumb if you ask me, but we're rallying around him, and people are out riding and looking, and keep your eyes peeled if you do live here in the Portland area.
There's been a lot of people looking for that bike, trying to help Jay out, and the city even started to crack down on the area a little bit.
Good.
To try to dissuade the crime that has been happening down there.
How are his wounds healing up? Have you heard from him? I mean, I know he
he
didn't
actually
break his ankle, or
ended up
sprained it.
No, he thought it was fractured or sprained, but it's actually fractured.
It is actually. Wow.
Yeah. So he's in a walking boot for 6 weeks and is going to miss the rest of the race season, which is unfortunate. Because he likes to pick up some of these late season crits, and he's 69 years old, still out racing his bike. You don't want to take these races away from the guy.
No,
you can't. That's just not fair to him. So. And one last bit of news that I thought was quite interesting and sad and horrific all at the same time. There was an Italian junior track cyclist who went down on the track and was impaled by a 20-inch splinter during the crash. It went through his body.
Oh my gosh.
It went through his torso, his left side of his torso, missing vital organ parts. But I mean, he was in 3 hours of surgery to get this thing extracted from him. And I'll post the article on our Facebook page, but my God, how does something like that happen? Like 1 minute you're out riding your bike, and next thing you know, you've got a big giant piece of wood that's going through your body.
That's a fluke.
That's a fluke.
This biking stuff is dangerous, guys.
There's a picture of it too, which is graphic, and I'm looking at it right now, and it just makes me want to scroll past it. But my God, that sucks. I hope that kid feels all right. He's doing okay. Any other news from you guys?
That's it.
Any super micro news here, local neighborhood news, Matt? You usually got something that's kind of very local centric, but
neighborhood's good. I don't know. I don't go outside anymore.
All right, let's jump into our topic: the anatomy of an epic ride.
Epic.
Some of our personal epic rides that we've been on. Tips for maybe tackling an epic ride. And is the word epic overused?
Yes, the word epic is overused.
Is the word epic overused on our podcast?
So far today, maybe. A strong possibility on that one. So the definition of epic: heroic, something long, something grand, something monumental, lofty, extravagant, bombastic. I looked this up for a few extra little synonyms here. Something that could be considered a work of art or extending beyond the usual or ordinary in size or scope. So that right there, just looking at all those words, that you have to use that to describe an epic ride. But in the same breath, the word epic is subjective. So
right.
Something like that might be mundane for Lance could be epic for somebody else. Like Lance is going to go off and do a 100-mile gravel ride, and he'll forget about it 2 years down the road. Like, oh, that was one of the 50 gravel grinder rides that I did that year. But for someone else to just be able to accomplish that, it could be just this big, ostentatious goal that's just like, I've never done this before, and I tackled it, and it was a historic effort, and I survived. So it is kind of a subjective thing. So I think that's where we start to run into the problem of this word being a little bit overused. Yeah. Somebody might go down to the little park here by our house and knock out 15 miles, and their longest ride to date might be 2 miles, and that's epic for them. But for us, it's just like ho-hum.
Right. The other thing that I think, that we take for granted is where we live. And, like when my family comes to visit me from Alabama or whatever, if I take my older brother for a ride, I mean, if I take him in the gorge or something, I mean, it's for him.
He's in awe.
That's going to, I don't know. I would expect him to, describe it as like an epic ride, compared to biking in Birmingham, Alabama, which is also beautiful. It's just different. Like we just have a different set. I mean, in my mind, when I think of epic, I'm thinking scenery mostly. Like, yes, when you do a long ride, yeah, you can kind of describe it as epic. But, like if you really think about it, like our Seattle to Portland ride, that's a 200-mile ride. It's a very, very long ride. It's not the most gorgeous. I feel like sometimes when we ride in the gorge, it's even more epic, as I would describe it, because of the scenery.
I'd agree with you. However, there's a certain goal element about that. I mean, to ride 206 miles in one day,
it's long.
So
it's grueling.
Yeah.
I kind of split it up into 3 categories.
Okay.
You can have epic effort,
yep,
or epic weather, or epic scenery. Those are the 3 kind of categories of rides that I've done, or that I would consider in this category, is either effort, weather, or scenery.
Okay. Let me ask you guys this question. Would you rank any of your races that you've ever done as epic?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, we race in beautiful places, and this is why I harp on like location. A lot of, especially for cycling, like you go to cool places to race a lot of times.
Yeah.
I was going to go race in Whistler. Like that's pretty beautiful typically. So
my problem with that is when I'm in race mode, I'm not stopping to smell the roses. Yep. I'm not looking. I almost get a tunnel vision, and you're just so hyper focused on like your effort, how much time is left, what's ahead of you, the competition around you, and I'm not taking in all this stuff. And I've actually had races that we've done here in the greater Portland area.
Yep.
And I'll go back and ride those areas and like stop with my head up and put my head on a swivel. I'm like, how did I miss all of this?
So I think at Rebecca's Private Idaho, which is a fantastic gravel race with world-class scenery, I was talking to Rebecca after the stage race, and I mentioned how much I had suffered and how hard I worked. And her first words were, well, I hope you looked up and looked around at what you were riding through. And I went, oh.
Yeah. Well, you were just back there a week or so ago riding on a trail that was a part of the gravel grinder, and you stopped and you smelled the roses.
I was like, oh my.
Yeah, it was incredible,
this
right?
This is incredible. Yeah.
So one of my race strategies is actually, especially, and it depends on the race distance, but in Ironman distance races, one of my race strategies is to actually kind of like take at some point in the race, like take a moment and at least one moment during the race and look up, because I think your blood pressure drops, your heart rate might drop a little bit, things like that. And you can do it in an Ironman race, in an Olympic distance race, or some of these shorter races and stuff like that. Probably like, a crit race or any of the races that you guys do that are, an hour or whatever. You probably need to just be focusing on the wheel in front of you so that you don't crash. But I think in an Ironman distance race, in a marathon run, if you can kind of take a couple moments and kind of just glance around, like I think it's a benefit to your race, not a detriment.
The Gorge Gravel Grinder this year for me was a race that I was racing. It was 100 miles, most of it on gravel. The weather was terrible. It was raining. It was cold. Lots of people stopped for hypothermia. Jake mentioned, race mode. If I wasn't in race mode, I would have stopped.
Yep.
I would have gotten off my bike. And I consider that kind of one of my epic rides from this year. Because,
you would describe it as epic?
Because the weather was so horrible that very few people finished. There was a major DNF rate. I was able to finish, and the last 2 hours were so much suffering that I probably shouldn't have finished. And if it wasn't a race, I would have just gotten off my bike and said, okay, this is silly.
Yeah.
I would agree with you on your criteria on that particular race. being epic. I personally don't think that, with the exception of maybe one race, I don't think I would classify any of my efforts, or not my efforts, but my races themselves as epic. I'd maybe have an effort or two in there that I would say that was a pretty epic effort, but I would never refer to it as that. I would just say that hurt really bad. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think that I've gotten to that station yet in a race where I can actually fully categorize it. And I think for you, it's like a lot of the weather component, just getting through that and being able to say that you finished when so many people weren't able to. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
There was 150 people signed up for it, I believe, and 30 finished the long course.
Yeah.
30.
That's harsh.
It's ridiculous.
Matt, do you have a race that you would consider epic?
You know, I kind of agree with you that, you know, when you are in race mode, that you don't. And again, for me, I define epic as like that ride where you're like, wow, we just went through all these beautiful places and you had an adventure. And like that to me is how I describe like an epic ride. And so races are tricky because you typically don't look around as much.
Sure.
But because, you know, I've raced in Whistler a couple times and it is gorgeous. Those are, you know, potentially some of the races that I might describe as like an epic event.
Gotcha.
Sure. But I don't know. Yeah.
For me, it's got to be something that it just has to be monumental, and it has to be something that you not only remember for the rest of your life, but it left an impression on you to where, like, when you stop and think about it, like, oh my gosh, I still remember that hurt, or I still remember that view, or I still remember how I felt after that ride. I mean, it has to really leave a massive stamp or an impression on you so that you can categorize it as such. So
yeah. And you know, running wise too, you know, there's the different element to that, right? Like by some definitions, when you surprise win state championship stuff like that, where it's like, oh yeah, that was absolutely ridiculous. And if you have a long enough running career, things like that are, you know, some stuff like that will happen, right? You'll have these big epic races where unexpected things happen and you have a great day. Then those are cool days for sure.
Now, do you guys have any rides that before they started, you're like, this is going to be epic, and they turned out to be so? And on the flip side, do you have any rides that were, this is going to be epic, and you're like, not even close?
I think some of the adventure type rides where you're like, we're going to ride, you know, I've done this a couple of times, and I used to do it more, and I haven't done it as much lately, where we're basically, I would say, 100 miles almost exactly from here to the coast. So you kind of have this like destination type ride. Right. I think those are pretty epic in a lot of ways, where they are a bit of an adventure. Are you going to make it? Like, how are we going to get, you know, it's all this stuff where it's like, you know, you go through a beautiful location, right? Because we have like these, I don't know, foothills or whatever in between Portland and the coast. And you go through some beautiful areas. But it's a long way, and it's definitely an adventure. And so I think some of those rides are pretty epic.
Gotcha.
You know, I've been super fortunate. I've ridden in 11 different states so far this year.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Which is, and thinking about some of the rides I've done, and I think about, you know, what really comes to mind, and some of them might be ho-hum for other people. One of my favorite rides from this year was when I rode along Big Sur, in the Central California coast.
A little wind on your back,
and I had this beautiful tailwind.
Yeah,
I'd never even driven it, so I didn't really know what to expect as I was riding, and every corner I was just blown away.
I think that's part of it, right? Where it's like you don't know what's coming up, and like you're just like eyes extra wide open on every single turn.
Yes.
And if you've never done it before, it's that much better.
Just blown away. And that's a really good point. That's a spot that thousands and thousands of people have ridden that section.
Sure.
And for me, I don't think I'll forget the feeling I had while I did that. Another one was when I was on my mountain bike and riding in Lake Tahoe and rode the Flume Trail for the first time in Tahoe. Do you know what the Flume Trail is?
I think you mentioned it when you
heard of it.
You
haven't
done
ridden it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So Lake Tahoe is this beautifully perfect scenic lake, you know, and the Flume Trail, it's just outside of Reno, Nevada. So it's in Nevada, on the border of Nevada and California. The Flume Trail sits about 2,000 feet above the lake on like a cliff ledge. It's called a Flume Trail because there used to be a water flume that went along that area for mining. And now it's this, you know, I don't know how long it is. It's only like a 10-mile section. I did a really big 4-hour ride or something like that there. But when I hit that flume trail and you're sitting 2,000 feet above the lake and you're on this like perfect single track that you have to be focused so that you don't wipe out and go off the
2,000 feet
cliff edge. But and it's smooth, beautiful single track again around every corner. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It is so beautiful. So that was just another spot where my workout or my Strava segment goes out of the head and I just stop and like, I got to take a picture. This is ridiculous.
I remember the first time I rode in Bend. I was just riding on the Deschutes River, and it was the same thing. It's just a little mundane trail that many people have probably done many times. I stopped so many times and took so many pictures because every corner you come around, you're like, this isn't real.
Wow.
This just isn't real. You're like, somebody painted this, and I'm in like some CGI world or something like that right now. So I know what you're talking about there. That's pretty spectacular. And like to kind of bring this around full circle, like being in race mode and not being able to take that stuff in,
right.
I was getting like little snapshots, and I still have these snapshots in my brain, and I need to go back and ride this again. The Yam Hill gravel grinder that we did.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Every time you come over a summit, you look and you're like, whoa, that's not real. That's not real.
Rolling beautiful hills.
Yes. It looks like something that somebody created on a computer. It was too perfect. And I need to go back and ride that. And I'm really looking forward to doing that race again next year, but I want to go back and ride it just so I can stop and take it in. I'm like, can't take a picture now. I didn't even have my phone with me for starters. And I'm like, I need to have a picture of this and I want to remember it. And it's just all like mental memories right now, but I need to go back and do that because it was such beautiful scenery.
Yeah.
So
agree.
Matt, what would you have as far as tips for somebody who's going to go maybe tackle an epic ride or maybe do their first perceived epic ride or race?
Sure.
Is there something that you would...
Here's what I would say. Talk to some experienced riders. Ask them what their favorite ride is. And I think, Lance and I even talked about doing maybe a podcast where we just kind of talk about like our favorite rides of the year. Mm-hmm. Maybe like write down, when you have a podcast like this, or when you have experienced riders, not that I'm like super experienced, but you have a couple of people that have ridden all over the country, like Lance Hepler, like take note of what kind of stuff he mentions as being epic and follow up on it, right? Bring your camera and go there and do those things just because that's an opportunity that you don't want to pass up.
Yeah. Some of these quote unquote epic rides that we're describing, I mean, these are rides where you barely make it back alive and you're amazed at what you accomplished.
Sometimes.
You're just amazed at like what you accomplished in terms of like an output or like a volume or like where you rode. It was like super crazy. I mean, in that breath, I mean, you also need to play the safeguard. So, I mean, would you suggest that epic rides be done in groups or with friends?
I'm Safety Dan here, right? I mean, the broken Safety Dan. I'm always a fan of people kind of riding in groups for safety reasons. One of my favorite rides of the year, we did our like team training camp.
Yep.
And this is so rude of me to even say it, but like Jake had a flat and I just left him like a jerk, like the jerk that I am. And I figured the group would catch me or whatever. I rode the whole day by myself.
That was the long day, the second to last day. Was
no,
it was this Live Oak.
It was like
Remember we were stuck downtown at the vacuum bicycle shop.
It was like 60, 70 miles, maybe. I don't remember. But it was like all these flooded out roads that we were biking through.
That was
and
awesome.
It was just a gorgeous ride. Like lots of cool roads. Probably, I would kind of describe it as like an epic ride. It was by myself.
Yeah.
It was
Sometimes
by myself.
Those are special, but
and I think because I was in no rush, I just kept waiting for the group to catch me, that I could just like
enjoy it.
Yeah, cruise up to the top and just like either mentally snap a picture or actually grab my phone and like take a picture. It was just so beautiful. I really enjoyed that day.
Yeah.
And fun. So yes, ride with groups. Yes, it's safer to ride with groups. I was so thankful that when I broke my shoulder, that I had two people there to help me, like with everything, like pull my bike to the side of the road, like get the ambulance, all these things. Like it was, call my wife. It was just so nice to have all the help that I had when I hurt my shoulder. So I will discourage people from riding alone. But
Lance, are you a gambling man?
Yes. with his own life.
With my life.
That was my question. It was a loaded question.
Loaded.
You, my friend, do a lot of quote unquote epic stuff. And if it's not epic, it's pretty surreal and crazy to see some of these rides that you do. And a lot of these rides, you're by yourself.
Yeah.
You are in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
You have no cell service. You have no connectivity with humanity. And you're out just, killing it. The only person that might be able to save your life is your dog.
Yeah.
She's with me.
So,
Piper, get help.
I've said this before. I think you should consider a satellite phone at some point.
Or the satellite beacon, if anything else, from Garmin.
There has been a case where I was in trouble and could not. I had no way to call anybody. There was no cell signal. There was nothing. It was 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Where I was doing a 60-mile loop or something like that, and was told that there was only 3 miles of gravel, and I was on my road bike. I didn't have a gravel bike back then.
Sure.
And there was 15 miles of gravel, not 3. I got bad data from trying to look at other people's Strava rides. I was just trying to find a cool spot to ride.
Sure.
Yeah.
And with 20 miles to go, I had flatted enough times. I'd flatted like 3 times. I'd used up all my tubes. I had gone around a gate to ride on this road, so there was no cars. I was 20 miles from my truck. There was no cell service, and I was thinking, I'm going to have to walk out. Right. It's going to take me 5 hours to walk out to get to my truck.
You're calculating.
I was calculating.
Yep.
And
you're like 5 hours if you move decent.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I ended up walking for about an hour before I finally hit a paved road, and then rode on a flat tire, completely flat tire, destroyed my rim to get back to my car. I sacrificed my rim to get back to my car before it got dark.
And all those things seem super small and minor to me, because if you really crash and hurt yourself, like, I want you to be able to call someone.
Yeah.
Well, not too long ago, you were on your cross bike and you went down, and that was the catalyst that made you want to get a gravel bike. But you went down, and that could have ended a little bit worse. I mean, you could have hit your head.
Correct.
You could have been broken. You could have been injured substantially.
It was off season. There was only 2 people riding on that whole road that day. It probably would have been 4 or 5 hours before I was found if I had been knocked out or rendered.
Yeah, and Captain Clear Conscience over here doesn't hold any bars. He just flies down stuff,
which is great.
Bombs away.
I feel like it's awesome. Like, the way you descend is a thing of beauty, right? Where it's like, guy's happy, he's good. But at the same time, selfishly, I want you to have something to call. If that's an option, and I'll talk to your wife and we'll talk about it.
Okay.
So have you guys, I'm going to tie this back into the question that I asked you, but have you guys ever had a ride that was just going to be some mundane ride that actually turned into an epic ride? And were you prepared for said ride? Can you think of anything along those lines? I have one experience.
Nothing's coming to mind.
Yeah, nothing comes to mind right now. What are you thinking?
I was doing a training ride.
Yep.
And this is when I lived in Southern California, and it was on the mountain bike in the Santa Ana Mountains. And there was a big race called the Vision Quest, and I've talked about this on the podcast.
I was going to say,
before.
have you talked about this before? Yeah.
So doing a training ride, and I get to the very top of Saddleback Mountain, and I'm like, I want to go down a different way. I didn't have a lot of experience with all of the different routes that you could go down. I only knew the route that I always rode. Get to the top, and I ask a hiker, I'm like, hey, is there a different way to skin this cat? Can I get down to the bottom if I go a different direction? He's like, oh yeah, take this trail down. Took the trail down. I'm like, at some point in time, this is going to wrap back around the mountain and go the other way. And I ended up taking it just about down to the bottom. Well, it went down to the bottom of the mountain on the other side of the mountain.
Oh.
So I ended up actually adding on, it was about 3 hours. I did not have the hydration for 3 hours. I did not have the nutrition for 3 hours. I did not have the cell phone battery for 3 hours. And I actually ended up having to get all the way back to the top of this mountain. And I was pretty much like starting to get a little like, oh my God, I need some fluids in me. Little lightheaded. And I ended up, when you get to the top, there was a few other hikers, and there's some car trails that you're going to get on. There's some people that were like off-roading. I was stopping people, asking them, do you have any water? And so I was taking water out of their, it sounds kind of gross, but out of their cooler. It looked clean. I'm like, all right, I'll try this.
Sure.
And some people only had ice, so they're putting ice in my bottle, and I'm letting that melt. Some people offered me beer. I passed them the beer because I was already a little bit woozy there. And it was just, it was crazy. And I know that it put my wife in a way because they were all actually out in the cul-de-sac, and she was with my neighbors, and they were about ready to call the park services and the forestry department and the police and the sheriff's department to find me.
Because you were that overdue.
So it ended up being something like, I think it was like 60 miles, and it was probably 10,000 feet of climbing. And I'd only gone out to do like a 35, 40 mile ride. And I was just looking for a different way down to have a little bit of extra fun. So it ended up being dumb for me to do that and not knowing better and not doing a little bit more research ahead of time. But in the same breath, it's something that I'll never forget. It's something that I came back and I'm like, wow, that was an accomplishment. Wow, I'm ready for this race now because I did a hell of a lot more and a lot better than I thought I would. But it was pretty dumb. So that was my example there. But in terms of preparedness for said kinds of rides, I really suggest that you ride with other people. I think that that's always a good thing. But there is that element of doing something on your own. But let people know where you're at and have some sort of way to be connected with them so that if something should go wrong, be prepared.
Yeah.
And then nutrition, hydration, camera, the whole bit. Like make sure that you've got your whole arsenal of everything that you're going to need to really, get through this and not come back limping and broken and about ready to pass out from dehydration. Is there anything else that you guys can add to the list of things that you think that people should have with them?
What do you guys think about a medical kit? I had one suggestion, after my crash that maybe bikers should bring a medical kit. And I thought it was a good suggestion because a lot of times, some of the basic stuff isn't that heavy. But again, it's like, gosh, I'm already this triathlete that's bringing tons of gear on the bike. Like, I don't know if I would want to bring a ton of medical stuff.
So what would you suggest for a medical kit? And we can talk about
bandages for road rash. I don't think you can do a ton of stuff. I don't know what you would. I mean, that's a great question for our listeners. If you guys want to comment on any of our stuff, like some of the stuff that we've talked about, epic rides, and what do people think about that?
Triathletes have kind of a unique seat post in their bike, and a lot of times you can jam a lot of stuff up there and somehow like cork it so that it doesn't fall out. Now you can see you keeping medical tape or band-aids or gauze or whatever, stuff maybe even like a sling for Matt in his arm. You could keep that kind of stuff in there, but for those of us that have got a Di2 battery stuffed up there, I got to find somewhere else. But there are all these little secret spots where you can hide stuff, like your stem. So if you take your stem cap off and pull the bars off, usually there's like an open, area within the stem where you can put stuff in there. I mean, that's a place.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
I know.
I don't know if I'm ever going to put a medical kit in there. But
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, if I'm riding with someone, I hope they have a medical kit for me.
All right. What is your guys' list of epic rides from this year? Anything that you've done this year that you would classify as epic?
The first one that comes to mind is that very long day at training camp.
Yeah.
Yep. It's on my list too.
Yeah. It was only like 80. No. It was only like 80 miles. Wasn't it?
The very first day?
No, the last
big
day.
The big one's 110 miles.
It was 110, and it was like, I did like 11,000 feet of climbing or
so
something
did I,
like that.
Yeah.
And I think that was epic for me because a lot of climbing and a lot of distance. And as the day went on, I just felt better and better.
Isn't that insane? I was in the same boat.
I felt rough at the end, but I'm in the middle, and I felt good a lot of that ride. Yeah. I mean, I rode with Jake for part of it, and I was feeling really good at that point.
Yeah.
But just some of those climbs were gorgeous.
Yeah, it was beautiful, and for me, it was just kind of neat to be able to be out there and to be with the team and to know that I finished. And I'd only had like a handful of rides under my belt since
that was amazing,
jumping back out onto the road. So I was super pumped about that. So.
I loved that day. Yeah, I thought that was great.
Mexican Cokes are pretty good too, huh, Matt?
Yeah.
Jake was like, we were trying to figure out like how to get for me to get to 100. You were above that, but like it was like, well, let's go get a Mexican Coke over at this screen. And I was like, all right, I'll do it.
Yeah, that was a pretty epic day. Anything else from this year? Lance
only has 20 to 30.
I wrote down 7 things.
Just rifle them at us.
The first day was that training camp day. The epic weather day was the Gorge Gravel Grinder. As far as scenery, it was the Big Sur ride I did.
Yeah.
The Flume Trail in Tahoe.
Yep.
And then a road called the Harriman Trail in Ketchum, Idaho, which is part of the Rebecca's Private Idaho stage race. And that was one where I went back and rode it a few weeks ago and was just smile on my face the whole time. Yeah. So gorgeous. Just sawtooth mountains and gravel ride and no huge climb. That's an amazing trail if you ever get a chance to read that. Another one is the ride around Mount Hood here that I did with Andy Levine. That was more than a year ago.
Yeah.
Where it's 100 plus miles and like 15,000 feet of climbing.
Yeah.
It's a big day, but just views and scenery here in the Northwest is phenomenal. And the last one I wrote down was the ride around Crater Lake that I did.
Oh yeah, after Michael passed.
After Michael passed, alone with not a single car or single bike on the road, and 35 miles around one of the most beautiful places in the world, Crater Lake, Oregon. That not only for scenery, but for, I guess, the emotions and things that I was going through and dealing with.
There's a lot of processing.
A lot of processing.
Was surreal, I'm sure, to be there.
I don't think I'll forget that ride. Yeah. So those are the ones I wrote down.
How about you, Matt?
For me, the first thing I think of is like some of the training camp rides that we did were just, I guess I mentioned this early in the podcast, but yeah, they were just, I already told Lance this, but like kind of, if I can get my shoulder turned around, like I'm already looking forward to the training camp.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're doing.
I did it. You can do it too, my friend.
I know. It's like, I don't know what we're doing. I don't know where we're going, but that was just such a fun trip. The rides were amazing. And, we owe a lot of that to the people that organized the trip and the plan, the rides and things like that.
Yeah.
But then I guess Hannel, we should thank him. But then the other thing, similar to Lance, some of the spots up in Mount Hood, I think it was basically last summer around this time, I was going up to Mount Hood a lot to do some filming stuff. And I would always bring, a bike and then swim in Timothy Lake. And it was just like, wow, you can just, you're running on trails, swimming in these huge open lakes with just this gorgeous mountain in the backdrop. And it was perfect sunny days. And then take a gravel bike out for a spin. It's just fantastic. So those two things, the trip and those sort of things, it's just like, yeah, you can't beat this stuff. Yeah. It's fantastic. Yeah.
I don't have anything extra to add to that. Yeah. I would just say the training camp for myself, I have kind of kept things somewhat reeled in. I've just been more focused on having fun, but being uber safe about everything and having to pass on certain things. But that training camp was spectacular.
Yeah.
There wasn't a ride there that I didn't just love and cherish. So, and the big ride was obviously one that I'll remember for the rest of my life. So that falls under the category of epic.
Epic.
Cool. Anything else you guys want to add to this?
Epic is overused.
Epic is overused.
Epic is overused.
Yeah.
And I think that I was watching a video from GCN not too long ago, and that
they make fun of it too.
That was on their like top 10 things of like in cycling that needs to go away. Like the word epic is widely overused. Stop it. So hopefully they'll listen to this and tell us to shut up. Well, all right. Well, let's move on to one last thing. Lance, do you have one last thing to share with us?
I guess nothing's coming to mind.
No one last things from Lance?
No one last things.
That's
from
not
me.
epic.
Follow Lance's Instagram because he has epic rides all the time and he takes epic photos.
Thank you, Matt.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and it's Dr. Hep.
It's at Dr. Hep. DRHEPP. Maybe I need to change that.
Maybe. Yeah.
Whatever.
Are you still? Well, you're a doctor for life. So
I am a doctor for life. So
yeah.
Whatever.
Adventure Lance.
Yeah.
You're going to be here for the next 2 short tracks coming up.
I am.
We've got a race tonight. Next week is the team relay that will come after the last race of the series.
Yeah.
I have a sneaking suspicion you've got some plans brewing for the month of August to go off and do some epic rides.
Well, I will be headed back to Idaho to do Rebecca's Private Idaho this year. So cool. There's some plans for that. But yeah, I might I might jump in the van and head north towards
wherever,
eastern Washington and Montana and Yellowstone, and I don't know.
And there was some talk or some whisper about an epic adventure to Florida.
Oh, there's a possibility. Yeah,
could do some time traveling there.
I
on
do.
The nice flat roads.
My daughters are both going to spend the fall in Florida working at Disney World, and I might drive them out there.
Fun. Matt, one last thing.
This morning I posted a video, which is, part of our crazy discussion with the tour. And it was basically, we're 2 weeks in. We don't know who's going to win this thing. And I ask anyone that watches, drop a comment down below. If this podcast comes out on Wednesday, which it probably will, it's okay if you guys want to go ahead and drop a comment. It's getting a little bit close to the finish to be, predicting winners. But go ahead and do it anyway. Watch the video. I give my prediction and ask people for their predictions. And I'm sending out stickers and coasters.
The coaster's awesome. Yeah, Matt gave me a coaster today. I'm stoked on that.
Yeah, coasters, which say swim, bike, run, rinse, repeat, I think is what those say. And then, have various stickers that I can send out your way. So do it. Hop on it. Next up from me, I am taking off today to go up to Whistler, and so I will bring the camera and try and get something put together for the YouTubes.
Looking forward to that.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yep.
Yeah. My one last thing is that we have cyclocross practice coming up here pretty soon.
Wow.
It's not going to be this week, but I think it might start next week, and it'll go from the end of July through August up until the start of the first race.
Oh, wow.
And that should be a lot of fun. We will host those locally here. Historically, we've done them at David Douglas Park, and then we've gone out to Vancouver Lake, and it's just a lot of fun working on some techniques and having some of the more experienced riders kind of run through some stuff to help you become more efficient. We'll do a little bit of a workout, and we'll have barriers set up and serpentine stuff set up and doing some beach work. And for me, I'm really looking forward to this, A, because it's fun, and it's fun getting together with other people and suffering with them a little bit. But B, I want to see if my ankle's going to hold up.
Yeah.
It's given me a couple small fits recently, and I'm really on the fence as to whether or not it's a good idea or not. But I think going out there and kind of using this as a litmus test will be fun.
2 questions. Who's leading those?
Let's see here. We've got 2 teammates, Carl Bailey and Jerry Pruitt. They're gonna
cool.
They've
come with some ideas.
Yeah,
and
they've done
help.
the past few years, and then I'll help them out as well to a certain degree. And then we'll have some, possibly some guest riders like Mr. Lance over here.
Second question: is anyone invited? Do you have to be part of the Dialed Cycling team to join?
No. We have had
come on.
Yeah, we've had people from multiple teams come out and join us, and it's just about having fun.
Do you have to have a working right shoulder? Probably.
It's helpful. Yeah.
It doesn't hurt. Okay.
You would have some very impressive skills if you could do it with just your
there you go.
Your left.
All right.
So we need to take your parts and my pieces and put them together and make a whole cyclocross athlete.
One mediocre rider.
That is it. Evan, travel safe.
We missed you, Evan.
We missed you, bud. Lance, good luck tonight at Short Track.
You too.
Matt, drive safely. Hope you're I'm glad to see that you're feeling better. That makes me happy. It's good to see your little movements that you're able to start getting out of your shoulder only a week out, so that's promising. Will you have to have surgery? Or
we don't know. I won't know for actually a long time. We'll probably, in a couple weeks, basically when I get back from Whistler, I need to see the doctor again, and he'll kind of say, like, if things are improving well, then we won't even do an MRI on the shoulder, unless, we think we aren't healing quite right. And then another couple of months before we see, like, range of motion kind of come back and see if the collarbone is kind of impinging, any sort of stuff like swimming and stuff like that. And if it is, they actually do this surgery where they cut your collarbone off, like part of it, to give you the chance to have that range of motion. Basically, the collarbone is sticking up in my shoulder,
just kind
awkwardly.
Of getting in the way.
Yeah.
Now, do you know if you had any damage to any other soft tissue in there?
I don't know. It's hard because all they've done is take an x-ray so far.
So they're just really letting things settle down, and then they have to have you move it, and then they'll quantify whether or not you need to have anything else done.
Yep.
I really, truly hope that you do not, because that surgery was god-awful for me. I mean, they did more stuff than just fix my rotator cuff, but it was terrible. It was some of the worst weeks of my life, or even months of that matter. But I hope all goes well and you continue to heal up.
Thank you.
So, you guys, thank you so much for listening. We greatly appreciate it. You kids have a good week. Bye for now.